Chapter 4. The Power of Your Story. Each and every one of us has a story, or many stories, that has shaped our lives. At its core, your story is where you live, emotionally, mentally, and sometimes even physically. Your story can either be the wind behind your sails or the anchor that is weighing you down. Our inner villain tells us the stories that hold us back. If you'll recall the ways in which the villain sabotages us, you'll understand that he does so by telling us those stories again and again, stories that we believe are fact, even when they're nothing of the sort. What we need to do is figure out what stories we should be telling ourselves, the ones aligned with the new vision we have for our lives, the ones that enable us to leave our old story in the past. The habit of aligning your story with your vision takes a little work, but aren't your wealth, your happiness, and your future success worth a little effort now for a better tomorrow? Of course they are. So get engaged, roll up your sleeves, and let's do the work together. In this chapter, we're going to uncover the story or stories that you tell yourself and how even the seemingly harmless ones may be holding you back and limiting your full potential. And our first step is to understand why you tell yourself and other people certain stories. Once you gain this understanding, you'll learn how to switch that story from a limiting, disempowering one that's robbing you of your confidence to one that can take you to the moon and beyond. Gina's story. One of my students, Gina, is an amazing lady who eventually became a dear friend. When I met Gina, she had a very specific story she told herself about who she was at that point in her life and who she believed she could be at some point in the future. But before telling her story, let me give you some background about who Gina used to be. She was a stay-at-home mom, and an amazing one at that. While her husband worked hard outside the house at his job, Gina ran the household and managed the family with great diligence, organizing, scheduling, taking care of her husband Nick, giving piano lessons to make some extra money when she could, and basically being super mom. And Gina enjoyed this role immensely. In the back of her mind, she sometimes thought that she had deferred her dreams and goals in order to make sure her family was solid and secure. We all question our choices at times, but for all intents and purposes, Gina was happy with her chosen role. What would eventually make her unhappy, though, was the inner villain who used this lifestyle choice to create a story in Gina's mind that would become debilitating and cause her to question everything. A big shift occurred when, one by one, Gina's kids started going off to college and finding their independence. One daughter married a great guy, and Gina was blissfully happy over this event, as well as her other children's accomplishments. Simultaneously, however, her inner villain created a much different story and a negative emotional state. And when her husband, Nick, came to her and said, "We need to make some extra money to handle the escalating costs of college and our daughter's weddings," Gina's old story gained power. This old story went something like this. At 60 years old, I had done what I was put on this earth to do and was the best wife and mother I could be. I supported my family at every turn, but now that job has come to an end. Now I'm old, lonely, and with nothing of significance to do anymore. As my friends say, this is the time in life to wind down, to cherish the past, and to spend less so we can make it through until the end. I have no special skills, so hopefully I can make some extra money teaching more piano lessons, or maybe by being a greeter at the local department store. This is a youth-based society, and there is no way an older woman like me could do anything of significance. Well, at least I did a great job as a mom. This story isn't that bad, is it? Actually, it's worse than bad. It's horrific. This story made her feel depressed, that she had no worth, and that her best days were behind her. Even though it was fiction, she told herself so often that it started to become her reality. She said it so many times subconsciously that she actually believed it as fact, a common reaction. The emotions that result from the stories we tell ourselves every day create the life we are going to live. It's impossible to boil down what I want to convey into one statement, but if anything comes close, this is it. Your emotions, your thoughts, and your story are your life. It is who we are at any moment, and we project those three things into everything we do. In Gina's life, she was projecting, "I'm an old lady now, and I just can't do much. Maybe this is the down part of my life, and I'll just settle in." And that was the life she was living until I helped create a pattern disruption. She started reading one of my books, and slowly, but surely, she exposed her story as a lie. When Gina learned about her internal villain and how he shaped the story she heard in her head, she was motivated to defeat the villain. She treated this villain as an actual foe rather than just a symbol for her stagnation. The more she learned about the villain and how he functions, the more motivated she was to stop his harmful storytelling. Gina recognized that if she changed her story, she could change her present and her future. And that's exactly what she did. Gina began telling herself a brand new story, one that totally transformed her life, her family, and the future in front of her. I am a strong, young, 63-year-old who has discovered the next phase of my life. I'm vibrant, beautiful. There is nothing anyone at any age can do that I can't do. Age doesn't limit us. It empowers us to use the wisdom we have gathered to be and act smarter and faster. Nothing can stop me from the joy, happiness, wealth, and abundance that I desire. God gave me so many amazing gifts, and I intend to use them all. Wow, a little different from the woman thinking her best days were behind her, and it was time to curl up, get old, and fade away. Gina's new story launched her on a new path, and here's what she has accomplished in the 5 years since she changed her story and her habits. Started her own business that's making more than enough for her perfect life, and her husband doesn't need to work anymore. Has traveled to over 25 cities in America and multiple other countries. Spoke to a variety of audiences about her transformation. Co-authored a book about her experiences. Bought a dream home overlooking the bay in Seattle. Paid for all her kids' college educations. Used company profits to pay for incredible family vacations. Lost weight. Got in the best shape of her life. Convinced her son to quit his energy-draining job in corporate America and work in her new business. Loves to drink great wine, eat wonderful food, and cherish her relationship with God on a new level. Crossed off almost everything on her bucket list. Smiles more than any other person I know. Inspired her children as they watched her go for what she wanted and achieve it. Gina noted that this may have been her greatest accomplishment. Okay, think about this for a moment. Gina's new reality didn't emerge because of some change in the outside world. She didn't hit the lotto or inherit money. She didn't get lucky and run into someone at a party who gave her a great job. What changed were her habits and eventually her story. She became the thermostat of her life rather than the thermometer. If you're not motivated to change your story by how Gina changed hers, then you're really dug deep into your old story. And no, Gina wasn't broke or living in desperation or despair when she finally realized her story was holding her back. She was just living a life that was status quo, and she was being held back from her full, next-level potential. When she discovered that she didn't need anything from the outside world to achieve more, she started rewriting her story. It was only then that she achieved her dream of unshakable peace and inner happiness. And the money was great, but it was only the icing on the cake. Now you may be thinking, well, maybe this worked for Gina, but what if I'm not as smart or as strong as Gina is? Well, if Gina were the only one who had ever experienced such a dramatic change, then maybe you should still have doubts. But Gina isn't the exception, but the rule, at least in my experience. I've worked with all types of students, a wide range of IQs, backgrounds, personalities, abilities, and they've all been able to do what Gina did. It actually doesn't matter where you are in your life right now. It doesn't matter if you already have a great job and family, or if you have wealth with no fulfillment, or if you have fulfillment with no wealth. Regardless, there is a story you must stop telling yourself, or a story you must adjust, because it is preventing you from leading an optimal life in the areas that matter to you most. Change your story, change your life. I could stop at this point, leaving you inspired by Gina to change your story, but it might inspire you for a day or two, and then your old story would drift back into place. You need to anchor this awareness and this change so it sticks with you for life. Together we will make this happen. I'm going to give you the tools to make that shift, to change that story you've been living with, to change your mental state, to develop millionaire success habits, and to build the confidence to go to another level in your finances and in all areas of your life. Now it's time to uncover any stories that could be holding you back. Uncovering your story. To flesh out the stories and flush out the self-limiting beliefs in your life, we must move some of them to the forefront of your mind. To do this, think about in which area of your life you want to experience the biggest breakthrough. Since you are listening to this book, the odds are that making more money, starting or expanding your own business, or finding work you love represent breakthrough areas for you. So stop for a moment and ask yourself why these things you desire have not happened yet. Make sure you don't filter your responses. Don't make excuses, offer rationalizations, or go into denial. Be honest and write the reasons you haven't achieved the breakthroughs you desire. To facilitate this exercise, think about which of the following factors might be stopping you from breaking through: the economy, lack of time, your boss, your employees, your unsupportive spouse, your education, your lack of capital, your health, your relationships. Many other possibilities exist. I list these just to get you started thinking about what stands in the way of your dreams. Focus on what comes to mind immediately when you think of why you haven't reached the point in life that you desire. What is the story you have in your head? In most cases, when you want growth in any of these areas but can't seem to find it, it means there is a story standing between you and your next level, kind of like a wall that you can break down, but only once you realize it is actually there. Now think about the stories that popped into your head and complete the negative story exercise sheet at www.thebetterlife.com under the Book Resources tab. Can you see how the factors from the previous chapter, the internal villain, the lack of a deeper why, fuel these limiting stories and make them real as heck in your subconscious? Consider, too, how your story became part of you. Maybe the negative news reports you received daily supported your negative story. Maybe hearing that you need to work on your weaknesses helped create your story. Or maybe friends' bad advice anchored your negative story until it became your truth and your belief. Did some stories come to mind? If they did, write them down. If not, stop listening for a moment and think of what you are holding back. Perhaps you're resisting this exercise, telling yourself, "Well, I don't have a good story. This is reality." If that is what you think, good. Write down what you consider to be your reality. Remember Gina's before story? Remember Gina's before story, or use the previous bulleted list to spark yours. Now let's dig a little deeper to find the limiting beliefs that crafted this deeply embedded story. Just so you know, these stories may have been with you for many years. They may stretch back to early childhood. The crazy part is that in most cases, the stories that disempower us have been instilled in us by the people we've encountered along life's journey. These stories create the excuses our subconscious gives us for not living up to our full potential. By the end of this chapter, I want you to be able to dig out from under your limiting beliefs and stories and throw them away for good. So let me share a scenario here that hopefully can help you dig deeper and achieve this objective. If your grandparents went through the Great Depression, they most likely have extremely conservative beliefs about saving money. They might say and believe things like, you have to play it safe. You have to get a job regardless if you like it or if it aligns with the person you are. Taking a risk can be devastating. And here's the thing. People went through hell during the Depression. Many in that generation couldn't even put food on the table for their families. At that period in history, there wasn't much margin for error. The focus was on survival. A huge part of the population took any job they could find. If they hadn't saved every penny, they could have lost everything. If that was the experience of your grandparents, they probably raised your parents with a frugal, cautious mindset. They may have instilled their Depression-era beliefs in your parents, and they trickled down to you. Those beliefs may be holding you back, and you don't even realize it. Maybe you want to branch out on your own. You want to expand your business or take a new job, but fear has locked you in place, and you don't even know why. In this case, I know why. It's a generational limiting belief or story that has been handed down to you from your parents and their parents before them. You are living with the ideals of someone from the Great Depression, even though you are not living in that period. It is simply an invisible fight, or as I've called it, the villain within that is causing you to be stagnant. These beliefs can limit all areas of your life, from the religion you follow, the political party you gravitate towards, to the type of person you choose in a relationship. Your limiting beliefs are sneaky and guide so much of what you do and who you become. Wouldn't you call it crazy if someone suggested that someone else was controlling your mind? Well, in many ways, this is exactly what is happening in your life. So focus on the beliefs and stories that are limiting you in different ways. When you consider doing something new or challenging, like starting a business or trying to make more money or get in decent physical shape, what do you say out loud or to yourself? Write down the beliefs or stories that come to mind and what you want to improve. Don't worry if they repeat what you wrote earlier in the chapter. They should be similar. This is all about extracting the beliefs that currently guide your life. Next, write where these beliefs came from. If you're like many people, you'll examine your stories and beliefs and say, wow, that's my dad's belief, That's my college professor's belief, or that's my ex-spouse's belief. Even though they may have come from these people, if they live inside you for long enough, they will become your reality as well. So we need to identify them and see how artificial they are in most cases. You must see that they are not your beliefs, but rather beliefs handed to you by others. So now that you have identified them, I want to guide you on a path to not only prove your story isn't true, but also to show you how to reverse it and make a new limitless, empowering story that powers you toward all different types of life success. How has it affected your life? It's possible that you don't realize how negative the impact of your story has been. Take a moment and assess its impact by answering the following questions. Has it diminished or possibly destroyed your confidence and lowered your self-esteem? Has it made you angry or vengeful? Has it left you living with doubt, confusion, or maybe even going to therapy? Has it cost you your health, your career, your peace of mind, a relationship, or your joy? Has it stopped you from finding the real relationship you deserve or from fixing the relationship you're in? Has it prevented you from being the parent you want to be? Has it made you fearful of trying to start your own business or create more wealth with your ideas? Chances are that you answered yes to one or more of these questions. If so, assess and write the cost. What specifically have you been denied? What loss have you suffered? What problems have developed because of the story you tell yourself? Don't worry about writing complete sentences. Just get it all down on paper so you have something tangible to look at. I want you to come face to face with the pain or the missed opportunities a bad story or a negative belief can bring, and therefore build even more resentment towards it and more urgency to change it. But let's go even further. Look to the future and think about what these stories will continue to cost if you don't change them. On your journey to where you want to go in life, how might these stories get in your way? Think about your life in 5 years, 10 years, or maybe even 20 years. What did you miss out on again because of these stories and beliefs? Close your eyes and imagine missing out on a great opportunity at some point in the future. Let yourself experience the pain of that missed opportunity. Are you really going to give these stories so much power? Recognize what they have cost you and what they will continue to cost you. When I think back and imagine what my life would have been like if I hadn't changed the stories I told myself, I know that all the success, love, and abundance I have would not have happened. I never would have started my own career, touched the lives of millions of people, traveled the world, and so much more. Even scarier, I may not have ended up the father I am today to Brianna and Brody. Clinging to one bad story or one bad belief can have a ripple effect in so many areas of your life. So let's get to flipping it to an empowering, limitless story. Prove it's not true. To get rid of your old story for good, find proof that it is a load of garbage. A part of my old story was that since I was in special reading and never got good grades, I wasn't smart enough to go to college, and if I didn't have a college degree, I would never amount to anything. I told myself that I could never start my own business, and that you need money and smarts to make money. I surely don't miss those crappy stories I used to tell myself, but I know what it's like to have them. Let me ask you this. Was the story I told myself true, or was it just plain garbage? Do you know any millionaires or financially successful people who didn't go to college? Of course you do. Two good friends who I've spent lots of time with are Tony Robbins and the billionaire Richard Branson. Neither of them started with money or went to college. I don't think Richard made it past the 2nd grade. And here are a few other massively successful people who lack college degrees. Maybe you've heard of a few of them. Bill Gates, Michael Dell, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Carnegie, Andrew Jackson, Benjamin Franklin, Coco Chanel, Henry Ford, James Cameron, John D. Rockefeller Sr., Walt Disney. The list goes on and on. I researched the topic many years ago and found out that the story I was telling myself was total nonsense, and I proved to myself that the story was wrong and a lie. Maybe you can tell by my writing style that I don't always express myself with the best grammar, and that I haven't read as many of the great books as I should have. When I was younger, I convinced myself that I had no chance of doing anything in life that required reading or writing skills. I couldn't conceive of the thought of writing a book, let alone multiple New York Times bestsellers. Am I an exception to the rule? Or are there other people who have written New York Times bestsellers who aren't good at grammar or reading? Of course there are. So clearly my old story was completely false. With a little research, I was able to figure out that the story didn't hold water. Have other people with no money or horrible childhoods gone on to do great things, be great dads, enjoy rewarding relationships, have amazing friends, and be massively successful financially? Yes, the chances are that the old story you've been dragging around is wrong. You just need to prove that it is a bunch of crap. It's nonsense to think that you are the only one with certain issues holding you back. Get the proof that those limiting stories and beliefs are nothing more than fiction. Have a conversation with God. Here is an exercise that will elicit true disgust for your old stories. Pretend you're having a conversation with God, the universe, or whomever you believe your creator is. Imagine God saying to you, "Why are you not living up to your full potential that I wanted for you? I put you in this amazing world and gave you limitless possibilities in your life. What's stopping you from being your best?" Sit in silence and contemplate that question. Then imagine yourself responding to God with the story that you may have uncovered recently, or should I say, the excuse. "I'm not living up to my full potential because my dad was rough on me when I was little." Or, "The economy shifted." Or, "My spouse doesn't support me." Could you really say anything like this to your maker with a straight face? Now imagine offering these excuses and rationalizations to someone who endured unthinkable cruelty or tragedy like a war, or a concentration camp, or cancer. Maybe you've endured an equally tragic life, but the odds are your story is more typical than tragic. You endured your parents' divorce, or you've had a lot of expenses, or you always felt shy and had low self-esteem. I'm not discounting your difficulties, only asking you to think about them relative to going through the worst that life can throw at you. And even if you've experienced the worst, I have seen people endure epic struggles and still pull through to achieve the seemingly impossible. And most of them overcame their dark past because they refused to let the tragedy and hardship define them. They created a different story for their lives. So when you tell God about how you have never achieved your career goals because your parents were highly critical of you, doesn't it make you resent this story? Aren't you sufficiently angry at the story that you're motivated to change it? Well, I surely hope so. Say it out loud. Because of the process we have gone through so far in this chapter and how we have framed your story, another way to rid yourself of your old story is to simply say it out loud and listen to how silly it sounds. Say it several times, over and over, and listen to yourself articulating it repeatedly. Say out loud, "I don't have a good life because..." Fill in the blank with your own reason. Here's what I say. "I can't reach my goals because I'm dyslexic and can't read well." Yes, I'm embarrassed by my story, but that's the point. I know your story may have been traumatizing in the past, but when you say it out loud as an adult, you start to hear how misguided it sounds. Again, your life might be worse than anything I can imagine, and I'm not in any way trying to minimize your experiences. But no matter what it was, no matter how bad it was, you need to get disgusted enough with the old limiting story to take steps that can help you replace it with a new story. Look for the good in every story. Now let's start the process of flipping that limiting story to an empowering, limitless one. When you change parts of the story, your narrative begins to improve. Let me share my own experience of how this is so. I was deemed stupid in school, and it certainly hurt a lot, causing me pain and setback for years. Or so I thought. As I've noted, I suffered from dyslexia and struggled to read because of it. Back then, teachers and other kids called me stupid because of my reading problems. I didn't attend a politically correct school. But without realizing it, not being able to read like the other kids taught me how to be good visually and orally. I figured out how to learn by watching and listening. These are skills many of the other kids probably never developed, and if they did, it took them a lot longer than it did me. This is why I can stand up on stage for hours and speak without a teleprompter or a script. My childhood dyslexia taught me to be able to communicate in a really simple, straightforward way. Even if the content is really complicated, when I teach it, it comes out easy to understand because that's the way I think. And I know that's one of the reasons why my message resonates with millions of people from all different walks of life. So what is something good that came out of your story? What is something that you once thought was an obstacle in your life, but in fact created skills that have made you who you are today? Maybe you were cheated on in a relationship, and at the time it seemed like the end of the world, but now you are with the best partner possible because you've learned what kind of love you deserve. Maybe you got fired from a job once, and it made you feel like you weren't good enough. But it was that event that allowed you to spend more time on yourself and get into the best shape of your life mentally and physically. Find the good that can come from your story and start changing it into an empowering story. Remember the words of Tony Robbins. What if life happens for us, not to us? When he shared that with me, the last 10% of the old stories I was holding on to about my family disappeared. If that hadn't happened for me, I wouldn't be right here, right now. So those supposedly bad stories were just part of a bigger plan creating and forming my character. Look back at your story with this find the good perspective, and those old stories start losing their power fast. Time to shift your story. Imagine you're in a house full of old memories from your life, and some are good memories, but others are those negative stories that remind you of the bad things that happened in the past. Now imagine that the house is on fire, and you have a tiny suitcase in your hands, and only a minute to save some of those memories. In order to reach that next level of success in life, you must choose to pack only the memories and the stories that will serve you going forward. If it's a negative memory that weighs on your heart or mind, let it burn up in the fire. Only carry out with you those things that will help you make the best life possible. Remember, the past only lives inside you. You have to think of the past as research and development. It is there to learn from and develop your better self. If the past haunts you, holds you back, or doesn't serve your grander future, then let that memory burn up in the fire. In The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle says that yesterday is the past and we can't change it. Tomorrow is a movie in our head that's not even filmed yet, and we only have this moment. So why carry all that heaviness of the past when you can let it go forever? It's time to adjust your story. Now that you're aware of what the old story has cost you, why it's not even true, though it feels like it is, how it is fueled by small outside factors, and most of all, how you should be disgusted by it, you should be primed to remake it. For example, I took my I'll never be successful because of my rough childhood and flipped it 180 degrees to my new story. I'm empowered because my childhood circumstances taught me to communicate better, to be a visual learner, and I learned to fail a lot when I was a kid, so failure doesn't bug me. When I combine the ability to learn fast, not fear failure, and be tenacious, my life is limitless. That new story is empowering and my new truth. You can find your new, better story just as I did. Remember, no matter what your old circumstances were, you have the ability to leave them behind. If you were cheated on, your partner stole your money, or your parents didn't love you, throw those stories away and develop a better version of your story in their place. Write your new story. As you craft this new story, do the opposite of what we did earlier and find proof that your new story is true. Search the internet to get proof. Ask successful friends. Seek out a mentor or talk to one of my trained coaches. Do whatever it takes to find proof that what you are now saying is possible. If, for example, you say, my adversity made me strong, bulletproof, and I can handle anything that comes my way, do a search for strong women of the past and see the adversities they went through. Look up Rosa Parks, or Mother Teresa, or Helen Keller. Most successful people went through hell once or many times in their lives. Find their stories and use them as leverage to create your own. The proof is everywhere, so go find it. Write it, revise it, but get it crafted. When you think you've perfected it, then email it to your phone and copy and paste it in the Notes app so you can read it every day. Start repeating it to yourself like it's a mantra and try to memorize it. And when the old story pops back into your mind, be consciously aware of your thoughts. If you wake up in the middle of the night and find that you're telling yourself that old crappy story again, say to yourself, whoa, 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 I threw that out. That's a horrible story. It's nonsense. And replace it with a new one. Say your new story out loud. In fact, once you have the new story or stories, then it's time to anchor it in your subconscious. Remember, you may have been thinking those old limiting thoughts for 10, 20, maybe 30 years or more. Just as it takes more than one session at the gym to get into shape, so too do you have to embed your new story into your life many times. Through my 30-day challenge or on your own, say the story out loud for the next 30 days, every night before you go to bed. Make it the last thing you think about as you're nodding off, and make sure it is the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. Try to make this a daily ritual for at least the next month. Also, find someone in your life that you can tell your new story to who would appreciate it. Someone who will smile and encourage you rather than poo-poo it and call you a dreamer. Tell this person how you've evolved and share the process of exchanging old story for new with this individual. Ask someone to be your accountability friend, a partner or coach who can help guide you or at least keep you on track. If you have somebody that can mentor you and guide you, grab hold of him or her and don't let go. I'm willing to commit dollars to make sure 2 of these folks are in my life at all times. I go 4 times a year to meet with Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach, and he's my accountability coach, delivering the wisdom that helps me be a better educator, a better businessman, and a better person. I am also a member of Joe Polish's Genius Network Mastermind in Phoenix. Joe assists me in sharpening my marketing skills and allows me to be immersed in better thinking and positive focus. I pay $25,000 a year to each of these guys because they keep me accountable to my own goals. I'm a teacher, and changing people's lives is my obsession, but I want to be held accountable for my own growth as well. A coach is someone who can really help you do that. If you have someone in your life that can be your mentor, please allow him or her to do so. Either way, make sure to take my fun and engaging 30-day challenge at www.thebetterlife.com, and you can also call my office at 866-505-4200. And let's see if one of my certified success coaches can assist you on your journey to becoming the best you. Compare your 2 stories. Lastly, after you've written your new story, compare it to your old story. See how radically different the outcome of your life will be by not only changing one story or one belief, but by changing all the stories that do not serve your higher purpose or your true why. You've spent so many years with the old story that it may take some time to erase it from your consciousness. And that's okay. So don't be impatient, but stay persistent. Remember to make a commitment to repeating it every night and every morning. It may require 10 minutes each day, but meditate on it and try to feel that new story. You can learn so much about yourself and your future success by changing the stories of your past and killing the villain within. More importantly, once you kill the villain within and change your story, you've started down the path to unleashing the hero that lives inside of you and finally attaining the wealth and happiness you deserve. Chapter 5. Awaken the Inner Hero. Hero, a noun, a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. Inner, adjective, situated inside or further in. Internal, either mental or spiritual. Those 2 definitions are pretty clear, and each taken on its own can represent a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when you combine the 2, the words take on a new meaning. Inner hero represents your full potential, your best you, the one designed by God that made you special, limitless, and the one who needs to be in charge of your life. When you awaken your inner hero, and yes, we all have one, you will open your world up to new opportunities and amazing levels of abundance and joy. As I explained, the best way to activate your inner hero, don't forget its opposite, the inner villain. As you have learned by now, the villain fights against your growth and does all it can to rob you of your confidence, trying to prevent you from developing and anchoring new success habits. If the villain doesn't work hard to be in control, it will have to bow out and let the inner hero take over. The villain doesn't want to lose its power over you. The way the villain works is by telling, or better yet, reminding you of an old, disempowering story and trying to sabotage your subconscious so you can't create a better one. Yet, by the time this chapter is over, you will have the tools and the clarity to let the best you guide your thoughts, your happiness, and abundance. Recall the definitions. When the inner hero runs your life, you are filled with confidence, optimism, and are a solution-focused person. When the villain is in charge, it's the polar opposite, robbing you of the courage, energy, and confidence to make the shifts toward the best you. This mindset ends today. I've given you the tools to know where the villain came from and how to eliminate it. Here, though, we're going to put a dagger in the heart of that villain once and for all and let the inner hero be in control. This process isn't about turning you into something you're not, changing an introvert into an extrovert, for instance. It's about accomplishing something deeper, better, and more custom-tailored to you and only you that can last a lifetime. Once the villain doesn't run your life, but your confident inner hero does, your possibilities are limitless, and then you will know what it is like to tap into your best you. Remember, I'm not offering you a magic pill for success. You're not going to read these words and instantaneously achieve wealth and abundance. Instead, as I've been emphasizing throughout this book, you'll learn how to make tiny shifts that can be implemented quickly and feel and see dramatic positive effects in a short period of time. Working together, we can accomplish this. You are worth it. So keep listening, pushing forward, and sticking with it. You've come this far, so don't stop now. As we continue on this journey, and I continue to share new habits, thought processes, and exercises, keep your eye on your why. It's easy to put exercises and behavioral tweaks off until another time. You have done that before, and typically it hasn't worked out. This isn't just about inspiring you and telling good stories. Plenty of other books do that. Instead, it's about small actions that can add up to massive positive effects. No more roller coasters. It's time to move forward in a straight, sure line. So to set the stage for this section, let's just say it like it is. Your state of mind and your level of confidence are critical factors in order for you to become a high achiever. Think about a time when you were in a bad mood and then something good happened and it triggered a great feeling. Maybe you learned there was extra money in your bank account. Your spouse did something special for you, or you got a promotion at work. Can you think of a moment or moments where you went from feeling down to feeling up in an instant? Of course you can, and that demonstrates that you possess the ability to change your state of mind and your confidence in an instant. You just need tools to be in control of this ability rather than to be at the mercy of outside factors. Face it, have you done anything amazing in your life when your confidence was in the toilet? No. With this state of mind, problems compound, opportunities are missed, and regrets are formed. On the other hand, when you had a day or a moment of high energy, confidence, or were in a great positive mood, I bet you can think of incredible things you were able to accomplish, even if only for a brief time. Yes, it's a great feeling when you are on an emotional high like that, to feel that burst of energy and change of mood. But if the high soon goes away and is followed by a low, then your life is filled with peaks and valleys. Peaks and valleys that are dictated by the outside world. Let's face it, this up and down emotional ride won't lead to the wealth, joy, happiness, love, or fulfillment you desire. That's why I'm going to teach you how to change your state of mind and your level of confidence in a moment, no matter what's going on around you. With this ability, you can limit those valleys and eventually prevent them altogether because you will be in control of your emotions and thoughts rather than allowing circumstances to dictate what they are. I'm going to show you how to tap into a higher level of confidence that lives inside you, to boost it, and to have it on call when needed. Most people believe that they either have total confidence or none at all. But low points are not caused by you having zero confidence. They can happen when your confidence drops by as little as 5%. Even a small hit to your confidence can be deadly to your aspirations, goals, and dreams. So be prepared to learn how to keep your confidence at 100%, or at least ready to access its full potential instantly. This level of confidence simply does not leave any space for the villain to exist. Your inner confidence is the hero inside of you waiting to shine. I've seen my students fumble with tactical skills and wonder why they were stalled, or worse yet, overthinking what to do to the point of paralysis. Why couldn't they build momentum and stay on a course that would free them to be who they aspired to be? Almost every student who didn't give up in the first few moments of transitioning learned that the problem was a lack of confidence. Once they went through this process, though, they obtained the ability to create confidence at levels they never thought were possible. And once they did, there was no stopping them. Before we discuss how to tap into this resource and give you the ability to change your state of mind and raise your confidence when you need it, I want to give you the chance to visualize this internal power shift and the huge difference it can make in your life. Profiles in Courage. Two Heroes. Carol Stinson let the villain run her life, in no small part because she had grown up extremely poor in Philadelphia. Then she eventually moved to a not-so-pleasant area in New Jersey. She summarized her philosophy this way: the poor stay poor, the rich get richer, they have advantages no one else does. But it wasn't just her upbringing that allowed the villain to dominate her thoughts and her life. As an adult, she encountered one hardship after the next. Her husband lost his job during one of the toughest economic periods in American history, instilling even more negativity and supporting the villain's cause. She was raising 5 children of her own plus 2 grandchildren. The youngest was a special needs child. Some days all they could afford to eat was peanut butter, and their electricity was turned off because of non-payment of bills. She told me she would wake up and immediately feel fear and panic because in New Jersey, if your electric is shut off, CPS, Child Protective Services, could take your children. So you probably understand why Carol told me the following. When you're from the wrong side of the tracks, this is what you believe is the lot in life you were dealt. You're supposed to live in poverty. You're supposed to live in scarcity. You have envy and disdain for those with money because you feel, somehow, if they're making money, they must be robbing it from us. And of course it was really easy to assign blame. It's the economy, the president, rich people, smart people, and 100 other scapegoats that encourage self-doubt and feelings of hopelessness. This happens when you resort to thinking, this is what we have. We create change when we desire to have more, and this desire is powerful and deep. But we can also create change when we hit rock bottom. Let's hope the second option is never the reason you have to make a shift, and you decide you want more. Carol, for instance, was running out of time, money, and excuses. With her residence in foreclosure, no money, and the pantry empty, she did something completely out of the ordinary for her. She bought one of my books with her last few dollars. She went against her family, her husband, and even her own inner voice to do so. And yes, I gave her strategies to make money. I gave her business ideas. But Carol told me that as she read, she kept saying to herself, this can't be true. This isn't what I've believed for so long. But it started to make sense to her, and she realized that the negative stories she was telling herself were lies. Based on reading about my personal journey, doing the exercises, and being inspired by the examples, she started changing her own thoughts, her success habits, and her story. Carol knew the villain had been in charge of her entire adult life, and nothing good had come of it. She was brave enough to awaken her inner hero and allow that to be her new guiding force. She realized that she didn't need a college degree, that she didn't have to come from the right side of the tracks. She didn't need money to go into business. She also realized how blessed she was to be raising 7 children, have a great husband, and the opportunities in front of her. She saw that if she changed her habits, told herself new stories, and let the hero be in charge, everything could change. And boy, did it. With these realizations, Carol no longer blamed the economy or fate or anything else for her struggles. Instead, she took control, and when she did so, everyone around her thought she was crazy. She insisted she could be wealthy. She was sure she could do more. She thought she could take on the world. Well, guess what? When she started thinking that way, she drove the inner hero to be stronger and stronger. Carol not only started her own company, she generated hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she got her family out of foreclosure. She bought a new house and a new car. She took her kids school shopping in malls where they had never shopped before and on vacations that they had only dreamt about. She even changed the destiny of her family by putting her children through college. Today, Carol Stinson looks 20 years younger than she did when I first met her. She is a strong, amazing, vibrant, highly respected businesswoman who's changed the destiny of her family forever, and not just financially. She's teaching them how to be different people by growing up with different habits and letting the hero be in control of their lives, tapping into their full potential and not leaving it up to chance, not going to their deathbed and saying, wow, there could have been more. No, there won't be any could have been more conversations for Carol. I have no doubt that Spitfire, that amazing woman, will go to her deathbed knowing that she was all she could be, and then some. Think about the simple definition starting this chapter. Think about Carol's inner hero and its heroic qualities: confidence, courage, taking responsibility. And another success habit that Carol exemplified was that she simply stopped focusing on what was wrong and started the routine of focusing on solutions. And that's where the villain and hero are so different. When people invest energy in blame, in figuring out why someone got a terrible disease, in obsessing about whose fault it was they didn't get the promotion or the raise, or why the partner stole their money, or why their first business didn't work, they allow the villain to be in charge. As big or small as the circumstance is, when you can accept that it simply happened and start looking forward to how you can create the best possible outcome, this is when everything changes. This is when you allow your hero to shine. Let me share another example so this truth will really sink in. You may have heard of J.J. Virgin, the creator of the Virgin Diet and multiple New York Times bestsellers, among many other great accomplishments. But what you might not know is not that many years ago, a car hit her son Grant while he was walking home, and the driver fled the scene, leaving him for dead. In fact, Grant was alive, but barely. He had 13 broken bones, and that wasn't the worst of it. because of the serious head trauma and likelihood of irreversible brain damage. The doctors didn't think he would survive, but added that if he lived, he would probably not be able to walk, talk, or communicate coherently. As of this writing, PBS is currently doing a documentary on JJ and Grant and the journey they went through together after this tragic event. They asked to interview me for the documentary, and of course I said yes. I was unsure of what they wanted from me, but was honored and delighted at the chance to support JJ and Grant or add value where I could. One of the questions they posed was, what did I think was the best way to get through a traumatic experience such as the one that had befallen JJ and her son? What instantly came to mind and exited my mouth before I could even filter it was, focus on the best outcome and try not to waste energy on why it happened and who is to blame. Now that may seem naive, given the circumstances and the tragedy in this case. But is it? I went on to explain my thoughts, but as I did, I realized that JJ acted in a way that focused on the best outcome. She, of course, went through all the emotions that we would as a parent getting that call. But as quickly as she could, she got obsessed with Grant not only surviving, but having the chance to live a normal life. She refused to accept what the doctors told her and Grant. When the doctors were not in alignment with her ideal outcome, she loaded Grant into a helicopter and, against just about everyone's advice, took him to another hospital more aligned with that outcome and better able to deal with Grant's situation. She did what she had to, made cold calls, knocked on doors, was forceful when necessary, and got the best possible people to help Grant. JJ found a vision, focused on solutions, and let the hero take over, and nothing got in her way. When I was talking to the documentary interviewer about all of this, she stopped me when I was almost done and said, "So the way you are answering, I'm guessing that you don't know that JJ didn't seek legal action against the hit-and-run driver. In fact, she never even spoke about her." I had no idea, but I wasn't shocked. It would have been so easy to place blame and expend energy on revenge. Others might have tried to get the driver prosecuted in the criminal courts, and if that didn't work, sue her for everything she had. JJ could have hated her, and rightfully so, given what happened to her little boy. Instead, she realized that revenge would do Grant no good and that we only have a certain amount of energy to put forth in the world. She knew what direction her energy needed to go and focused on the solution with laser intensity. She let the inner hero be in control rather than the villain. Your inner hero can't stop things from going wrong. It can't prevent tragedies. But if you let it emerge, it can turn even the worst possible trauma you've gone through into a building block for a better life. It can help you generate energy from whatever challenge you face and use it to achieve the life you deserve. This isn't about being glad if something goes wrong so you can learn from it. We don't want bad things in our lives, but the fact is they happen. So if they are going to happen, who do you want in charge? I think you are getting it. The hero focuses on solutions. And I'm happy to tell you that Grant didn't just live, but has thrived. Because of his fighting spirit and his mom's focus on the best possible outcome, Grant is working every day towards a bigger, better life for himself. JJ's new book, The Miracle Mindset, will be out about the same time as this one, and it's about the journey she and Grant have been on and the lessons we can all learn from their experience. So now you have a better idea of what the inner hero looks like. We need to examine how you can develop the confidence to put that hero in control. The 4 C's of confidence. Let's take a look back to a time in your life when you lacked confidence and it cost you dearly. Have you ever wanted to ask a girl out on a date or talk to a guy you saw at a coffee shop, and you let that person walk away without saying a word? Have you ever had an opportunity to tackle a tough project at work or the desire to start your own business, but just couldn't move past the thought to the action? Or make it even simpler, have you refused to walk into the gym because you thought you were too out of shape to be there? I've seen a lack of confidence destroy many people, and it usually happens when their confidence is just that 5% off that I noted previously. So when has a lack of confidence hurt you in the past? And how do you think your life would be different today if you had been able to summon 100% confidence on the spot and do what you wanted to do? A great man and a dear friend by the name of Richard Rossi runs a remarkable company in Washington, D.C., creating empowering live events tailored to high-achieving high school students. They receive life-changing knowledge by attending. When I was talking to Richard about his events, I said, "You've been blessed to see so many successful high school kids come through your program. If you could identify one common trait they all have, what would it be?" He said, "I don't even have to think about it. It's one word, confidence." He added, it's not the smartest kids or the ones with the straight A's that become the superstars. It's the ones that have an incredible amount of confidence that go on to do amazing things in their lives. Richard's words don't come from theory, but real-life data, derived from experience and results. He's seen thousands of the most successful young adults in the country pass through his doors, and the word he used for success was simply confidence. But here is the million-dollar question. Think back to a time when your confidence surged because of something amazing that happened. Maybe you did something in your job, or at home, or in the gym that had you look in the mirror and subconsciously pound your chest and say, "Yeah, I did that." In that moment, you got a glimpse of what the power of an instant surge of confidence can do to your state of mind. As you know by now, I didn't have much confidence as a child. I was the smallest kid in my class. I couldn't read very well. I couldn't sit still, and I got made fun of a lot. So as I got older, I had to learn to manufacture my own confidence. Through trial and error, as well as with the assistance of some amazing people, I've learned how to build this bulletproof confidence from the ground up. You can do the same. But first you have to understand the myth of confidence. Could some people have been born with it? Maybe in rare cases, but it's unlikely. In most cases, confidence is something that has to be learned. You're probably fooling yourself if you think of yourself as the confident type or the not confident type. Both are part of the myth. No matter what level of confidence you have, let me assure you there is more waiting to be accessed. Let's start building your confidence to the next level by using a great lesson that I was taught by a mentor of mine, Dan Sullivan, owner of Strategic Coach. This is a 4-step process that helps you discover what real confidence looks like and the ingredients needed to get there. The first step, or I guess I should say the first C in these steps, is courage. All confidence, all change, and all new things start with courage. When somebody bungee jumps for the first time, it's not confidence that gets them to jump off the ledge, it's courage. Let's take a deeper look at this quality, since it will help us understand how confidence emerges from it. Courage is walking through a door and not knowing what is on the other side. Courage makes you get off the bench, raise your hand, and get in the game rather than judging or envying from the sidelines. Maybe you don't realize it yet, but you have already built the courage muscles in your life. Do you have children? You have to be extremely courageous to bring children into the world and take care of them. You didn't know, and perhaps still don't know, what the end result would be, but you jumped in and you are learning as you go. Courage is something we all have inside of us, even if it is hidden. So if you want the courage to do something, recall your 7 levels deep and find your why. This is where that core habit comes into play once again. Taking action is possible when true purpose is recognized. Think of all we have learned to this point. When you have a vision, clarity, and don't let old stories hold you back, the ability to be courageous grows exponentially. So focus on where you want to go and your new story. Pull your shoulders back, stick out your chest and say, "This is my time." Be courageous and go for it. It all begins with that first step. Now the second C is commitment. You've already shown commitment by listening to this book and engaging in the exercises I've recommended. You're committed to a personal transformation, since any significant change requires a commitment. If you want to lose weight, you have to commit to that, otherwise you'll fail. If you want to start a new job, you have to commit to that, otherwise you'll fail. Or look at this second C, commitment, from the opposite perspective. Have you ever been successful in something in which you were not committed? Whether it was a relationship, a new business, or even a new diet? Heck no. If you want more wealth and that next level of life, then you're going to have to commit to it. That doesn't mean you have to devote every waking second to achievement of a single goal. But don't dabble. A shaky commitment means shaky confidence. So when you have the courage to take action and the commitment to see it through to the end, you're halfway to confidence. The third C is capabilities. What are you acquiring by listening to these pages and developing success habits? Capabilities. Remember when we talked about where you are, being honest with yourself, figuring out where you want to go and how you are going to get there? In most cases, you need to acquire specific capabilities to achieve your goals. If you want to be great at rock climbing, read a book from an expert rock climber, or take a course, or hire someone as a mentor. If you fail to take these actions and lack the knowledge to execute them properly, you will lose your courage to keep going and not commit to seeing it through. You will get frustrated and overwhelmed. So get a roadmap from the right person or source whenever possible. While this may seem like a no-brainer, don't you know people who get excited about something and think trial and error is the best approach? Then they hit a few roadblocks or challenges, feel defeated, and stop trying to reach their goals. With the right capabilities, on the other hand, you can spot the obstacles and know how to get around them. You can also access the path that will take you where you want to go faster and obtain the results you desire. You see, once you have those first 3 C's and take action, you finally reach the 4th C, and that is confidence. Your confidence then starts to naturally grow. You just can't help it. Think about each C separately and how it has given you a shot of confidence at different points in your life. Have you ever been afraid of doing something new like dancing in front of people, ziplining, or public speaking? Maybe you were scared to death before taking action, right? You were probably obsessing over what could go wrong, but you finally just did what you had to do. That was courage. Then after the experience ended, how did you feel? Exactly. You felt amazing and that you could easily do it again. How about commitment? You can dabble for years in a relationship or your business. Then, all of a sudden, one day, because of your kids, or because of your desire for more, or some other motivator, you commit and your life takes off. Consider capabilities. When you are in the dark about something, it seems so confusing. Have you ever tried to download and use a new app on your phone without any guidance? Have you ever wanted to learn a new language or learn an instrument and quickly grew frustrated when you weren't sure if you were moving forward in the right way? But once you acquired the capabilities, you read the instructions, saw an online video, hired a coach or teacher, the activity became second nature to you after some practice. When you align the 3 prior C's to achieve one goal and one outcome, your confidence will skyrocket. Hence the 4 C's to confidence. When the 4 C's are in place and your confidence rises, the hero inside of you isn't being suppressed by negativity or bad stories. Your self-doubt and inner resistance fades away and the real you is in charge. What's cool about you? No matter how strong you are, no matter how much you evolve, your confidence can still take a hit. And if you're going to reach your full potential, you must protect your confidence as you are protecting millions of dollars in a vault. So when life knocks your confidence down, you need the tools to boost it back up fast. That's what we're going to spend time on right now. Let me ask you this. What's cool about you? A crazy sounding question, and perhaps a difficult one to answer. But don't diminish the value of asking yourself this question regardless of the level at which you perceive your life to be. The first time I did this exercise, I was with Shawn Stevenson, a 3-foot-tall giant. Look him up if you don't know who he is. Shawn is an incredible man who has accomplished more than most, despite adversities most of us could never imagine. I was talking with Shawn about an obstacle I was dealing with, and Shawn said, "Let's write down what's cool about you." I responded, "What? Dude, let's talk tactics to fix the problem at hand, and not try and feed my ego." And boy, I was completely wrong there. Looking back now, I realized that he had noticed my confidence was down, and he was trying to boost it back up. So trust me, let's do this exercise together. So go ahead and start thinking of the things that are cool about you. One thing I know to be true is that when life gets stressful, we focus often on what we failed at, or what we've not accomplished, or the mistakes we've made. We tend to forget all the things that we've done really well. So this is the time to ignore the failures and think of the wins. When Shawn first asked what was cool about me, I was scratching my head. He called me out because of my reaction. He knew I was focusing on what was going wrong at the time, and it took me a moment to think of what was cool about me. Like the great teacher he was, he started probing, suggesting examples of coolness to get me started. And slowly my answers emerged. I wrote down things like, I put my kids first over work and accomplishments. I was in special education classes and barely graduated high school, yet I'm a multiple New York Times best-selling author. I can operate a bulldozer and a backhoe. I learned how when I used to build houses. I was a mechanic when I was younger, and I can take apart an engine, fix a banged-up fender, and paint a car. I donate money without anyone knowing. I create simple messages to get people to take action in their lives. I was the New England State Snowmobile Grass Drag Champion in my 20s. I still have my best friend from 5th grade. I always try to show the people I love what they mean to me. I can solve problems without conflict arising, even when someone wants to be confrontational. I am good on camera after years of practice. I've met some of my heroes. The list went on and on. Once I really started thinking about how I was cool, the items started to flow. Now think about what you can put on your list. Feel free to download the easy-to-follow Cool List on www.thebetterlife.com under the Book Resource tab. Get creative and include unusual skills you may have, as well as accomplishments. Your list should include anything that you like about yourself that has a coolness factor. Maybe you're a great friend, or you have great fashion sense, or you're generous to the needy. Whatever these traits or achievements may be, write them down. What is cool about your job, your business, or how you treat your employees? What about the daughter or son you are to your parents? The parent you work so hard to be for your kids, or the partner you are in your relationship? Even though I don't know what's cool about you, I do know with little thought that you will find plenty of items to list. And after you write them down, take a moment, be silent, and read what you wrote and let the list sink in. When I did this exercise, I remember thinking, wow, there are a lot of cool things about me. I have a lot of unique abilities and I've accomplished some ambitious goals. After completing the exercise with Sean, I remember my confidence grew immediately just by acknowledging my successes rather than my failures. Just as I shared all the little pieces that created the villain within, now I am sharing the pieces that will replace that villain's voice and put the inner hero in control. When Sean first said, do a "what's cool about me" exercise, I was like, waste of time. Doing it felt odd. I was wrong though, and if you experience the same negative thoughts for even a second, you were wrong too. Take the time and reflect. You are not only cool, you have already achieved so much more than you give yourself credit for. A tale of two pictures. This next exercise may seem like a little work, but with effort comes results. And it's an exercise that will help you trigger an instant confidence boost anytime you need it. You can download the blueprint at www.thebetterlife.com under the Book Resources tab. Start by finding an unflattering picture of yourself. It can be a digital image on your smartphone or an old photo you've stored in a shoebox. It could be from a time in your life when you were overweight, just pulled an all-nighter, were broke, lost a job, or you just looked like crap on the day the photo was taken. This picture is going to represent the version of you that is letting the villain control your life. If it's a digital image, print it and also save it to your computer. Then I want you to create a list of the negative traits you associate with this version of yourself. For instance, I was fat, I was messing up at work, I just had my heart broken, I was really mad at my sister, I was focusing on all the things wrong in my life, I blamed others for my problems, and so on. You see, those are the traits that have fueled your inner villain, allowed it to be in control, and absolutely demolished your confidence. Imagine how the person in that picture is letting the villain run his or her life and steal confidence. The villain is constantly saying, we're not going to be able to pay the rent, our career is not progressing, we're not financially successful, we'll never be rich, why should we even get out of bed in the morning? That's the definition of someone living with a scarcity mindset and limited confidence. Now attach negative emotions to that unflattering picture of yourself. Were you angry, sad, depressed, embarrassed, ashamed, insecure, and so on? Then I want you to name that person. Maybe you name that person the nickname you hated as a kid, or make one up that you would never like. But whatever it is, make it an unflattering name. Next, take it one step further and create a complete avatar of that negative version of yourself. What are the limiting beliefs and habits of this version of you? What do you stand for in this form? What do you accept as a given in your life? Who wants to be around this person? Even if you've evolved since then, focus on the version of you that you observe in the photo, the outdated version of what you are. Describe that person in the picture, the one not reaching his or her full potential. We are halfway done with this exercise. To complete it, find a picture of the happy you, the joyous you, the best you. It could be from a time when you felt great and you looked your best. It could be from the time when you were the shining hero, or the top earner, or just completely alive. Now describe in writing what attributes the hero version of you has. Is that person vibrant, powerful, energetic, wealthy, financially secure, a business owner, in control of his or her money, alive, passionate, enthusiastic, and strong? Does that person exercise regularly, eat right, and have an incredible relationship with his or her children? Does this version of you make a lot of money? Is he or she financially independent? Do others respect this person? Then I want you to name your heroic persona. Maybe you borrow a term from the digital world and call yourself John 4.0 or Mary 5.0. Next, create another avatar, only this time the hero version. What are your limitless beliefs and newly adopted millionaire habits? What does this version of you stand for? What do you accept in your life now? What will you absolutely not accept? Who wants to be around this heroic avatar? This version of you is officially the new version of you. Just explain you, living at your full potential, no boundaries, no judgment, totally in control. Who is the real you when the hero is in charge? Realize this truth. The two versions of you aren't separate people. Each of us has the good wolf and the bad wolf living inside, the old you and the new you, the villain in control versus the hero in charge. I bring up the wolf analogy for a reason. This is your chance to decide which one you feed, since that's the one who will take ownership in your life. Next, put your two pictures side by side, along with the text descriptions of both underneath them. Use your phone to photograph these images so you have access to them anytime you want or need to see them. Memorize the two avatars, both visually and what they stand for. Don't just rely on the digital image. Place the two photos, or print out the one on your phone, on your refrigerator, in your drawer at work, or on your computer as your screensaver. Keep these images handy because you're going to use them as your trigger whenever you need to require strength and whenever you need to summon your confidence. In order for this to work, feel your avatar. You must become the new, heroic version of yourself. Whenever something is going wrong and you find yourself getting into a negative state and you're allowing that villain to creep in, look at these two pictures and say, do I want to be that old version of myself that lets life control me? Or do I want to be the new hero version of me? Can you start to feel who the inner hero is? The inner hero is the you that God meant you to be. You're crossing limitless boundaries and utilizing all the gifts you have to reach another level. The inner hero is simply you at full potential with nothing being suppressed anymore. Power phrase. Here's another habit to change your state of mind and build your confidence instantly. Tony Robbins taught this exercise to me and many other great lessons over 15 years ago, and it transformed my life. I have adopted my own version of this specific practice since then, but it was a lifesaver when I learned it. Over a decade ago, I had everything go sideways at once, or so it seemed. I had an accountant steal a lot of money from me that literally compromised my ability to stay in business. My grandmother, who raised me for much of my childhood and was my favorite person in the world, was in a hospice, dying. My biggest stream of income at the time stopped overnight, and this is just the short list. I was telling myself horrible things and digging up old limiting beliefs. I started thinking, maybe I'm not smart enough to run a business at this level. Maybe I got lucky and my time is up. I was telling myself all these negative things, and it was destroying my confidence and feeding my inner villain. But I changed my state of mind, and I changed it completely. And the one thing that sparked that change was Tony's incantation and what I termed my personal power phrase. I started saying to myself, if I can get through this, I can get through anything. If I can get through this, I can get through anything. If I can get through this, I can get through anything. I said it repeatedly. I said it out loud as I would walk around the house or around the office. I said it walking to the gym in the morning and when I was on the treadmill. I said it louder and louder and with more conviction until my soul felt it. This simple little phrase empowered my life like I could have never imagined. It energized my cells. It got me into a state of mind where I felt I could handle anything. I stopped thinking about what could go wrong and focused on what could go right. It allowed me to kick the old villain to the curb when he was trying to move back into my life. No way was I going to let that happen with my new power phrase. I felt the inner hero take over my soul. I started using other power phrases to empower my life from that moment on and have never stopped. It's funny that Tony gave me this gift 15 years ago in one of his courses. At the time, I wrote in my journal, someday I will thank Tony in person and he and I will do business together. So now, fast forward 15 years, and I'm backstage getting ready to inspire 15,000 energized and amazing Chinese people in Shanghai. And guess who I was there with? Yes, Tony Robbins, who is now one of my dearest friends. I was getting ready to follow Tony on stage, and about 10 minutes before I was scheduled to go on, I got incredibly nervous. I started to question myself and my abilities. I became anxious about letting Tony down, as well as the other 15,000 people who were there. But guess what I used to turn this situation around? Nothing more than what Tony taught me 15 years earlier through his course. I started walking around backstage repeating a power phrase that I had used a few times before when I had to speak in public. I was literally walking around saying it over and over, and with more intensity each time. I command my subconscious to use my God-given unique ability to impact, empower, and transform the lives of the people who are here today. I repeated it until my confidence grew, fear subsided, and then the inner hero kicked in and I got goosebumps up and down my arms and my face from the amazing experience. Then Tony said my name and called me onto the stage. After Tony gave me a huge bear hug, I was ready to light up that crowd, and that's exactly what I did. Your power phrase can ignite your inner hero, and it doesn't kind of work. It works 100% when you use it this way. What power phrases can you create to help you with whatever it is that you want to overcome or accomplish? What can you say to yourself anytime you feel the villain emerging to make you feel small and weak? What phrase can you say to get the inner hero back in charge? Maybe it's something similar to one of the phrases I use. Nothing can stop me, I've been through way worse. Or it could be something like, I'll never give up because my family deserves the best me. Whatever it is, keep it active in your mind, ready to be implemented at a moment's notice. Write your power phrases in a handy, accessible place right now. What could be your phrase as you're walking into an important meeting and you're a little nervous and need a confidence and strength boost? How about speaking with a spouse about something critical in your relationship, or when talking with your kids about a difficult subject? Is there a phrase you can use before talking to employees or your employer about a tense topic? Once you find the power phrases that fit you, pick one and say it out loud over and over again in a private setting. Walking in the woods or around the house by yourself, when driving in your car alone. Don't just say it, but feel each word. Do it until you feel the energy in your body change, your state of mind shift, and the hero take control. This is you living at your full potential. No boundaries, no judgment, totally in control. Don't be embarrassed. No one is watching. Your state of mind and your confidence are vitally important to your next level of success, wealth, and joy. I've never met anyone who had limited confidence and still had massive success. On the contrary, all the billionaires, millionaires, happy and successful people I've met not only had a vision of where they were going and an empowering story, but they also had the ability to manufacture confidence and change their state of mind on demand. That means they are letting their inner heroes run their lives rather than the scared, dream-stealing villains. Now you, too, possess the tools to create confidence when it's needed most. This chapter was designed to put the final dagger in the villain's heart and allow the best part of you, your inner hero, to be in control. Now you have the tools and knowledge to do that. Remember, this transformation doesn't happen by practicing once or twice, just like 1 or 2 killer workouts at the gym won't get you the body of an Adonis. The more you practice, the more these shifts in your life will become your new habits and routines. You will see that you can handle life in a totally different way, and success will flow to the hero that's you. To help make that happen, let's drill down to the one thing that could help you create the wealth, abundance, and self-reliance on the next level to which you aspire.